Continuing from part 2 and concluding. And we cannot take charge of the situation because we are in the situation. So the next step is self-mastery. And to achieve that, we can do things like catch yourself thinking. There are exercises you can do to basically learn how to observe your thoughts, how to see yourself in the moment thinking something and then acting based on that thought. Learning to see that thought in action gives you the ability to catch that thought and perhaps change the action I would have had if I had the choice. Catch yourself feeling, being aware of my emotions and what they are doing to me. Taking control of the 500 millisecond gap. Studies show that between the time that I observe something to the time that I do something about it, the time it takes the brain to collect, integrate, analyze, and interpret all the signals that are coming to it and sending a signal in response to my motor cortex in the temporal part of my brain, it takes 500 milliseconds, half a second. So if I can catch myself thinking and catch myself feeling in less than half a second, then I have a choice. I can choose to do what I was going to do reflexively based on my conditioning, based on my attitudes, based on my thoughts and feelings, or I can say, no, I will not continue to do what I have always done. I have the power, I have the choice, and I choose option B. I choose to do something different. And therefore, change my behavior, change my interactions with others, and transform my entire life. Change the human experience that I am having. So this is a play on words. I say make choice your weapon. In other words, in this fight of life, I always am cognizant of the fact that I have a choice. By connecting to my highest level of wisdom, I become aware of that choice, and then I can make the choice to do something else, and that empowers me. Here is a functional MRI of the brain. If you notice in the front, the frontal cortex, it's more red, and toward the middle, it's more blue. The red means there's greater blood flow, and the blue means there's less blood flow. So here is a brain that is in a state of happiness, a state of creativity, a state of peace. And there's a lot of blood flowing to the frontal cortex, the thinking part of the brain. And so I'm able to be more productive, I'm able to behave well with others, I have no problems in my life. Here is another picture of a brain. As you can see, most of the blood is flowing to the limbic part of the brain, to the midbrain, to the seat of emotions, to the areas of the brain that have the ability to stultify us, to make us so engrossed and engaged in the emotions that we stop to think. So here, if you see, the frontal cortex is blue, which means there is less blood flowing to it. So in effect, what is happening is the flow of blood is so taken over by my emotions that I have no energy, no oxygen left to think, to allow my intellect to make good decisions. That is why they say, Vinash Kale Viparita Buddhi. So, in the grip of emotions, I actually experience the flow of blood in a negative direction. And this is what happens. So, a Jnana Yogi, being aware of this process and having been conditioned for quick response in less than 500 milliseconds, it is not that a person like that does not experience emotions of anger, sadness, depression, anxiety, or other such negative emotions. The difference is that such a person has learned how to change in the moment from a situation like the one at the bottom right to a situation where the blood starts flowing to the frontal cortex. And I can immediately begin to experience peace. Conscious living. Let's talk about some ideas for living consciously. Compassion. When I talk about compassion, I'm not talking about living a good life, about being compassionate because it's good to be compassionate. I'm talking about compassion as the path to learning. Only through compassion can I connect with other people so I can learn about myself. Because as we saw earlier, I most of the time am not aware of my own self. So by seeing myself through the eyes of others, I learn about myself and I gain more wisdom and insight. Compassion allows me to get that other person's perspective. This is not about being a good person. Yes, when I'm compassionate, I become a good person to others, but that's not the point. Compassion is the way to learn about myself through others. Forgiveness. Again, forgiveness is not to be a good person in this context. The purpose of forgiveness here is to lighten my load. The mental emotional burdens that I carry, that are programmed in the neuronal maps of my brain, that are creating filters which affect my life, which keep me from having the fullest possible life I can. Forgiveness is the path to shed myself of those. And there are very specific techniques to help me get there. So conscious living is about applying compassion so I can learn about myself, applying forgiveness so I can lighten my load in this human journey, and living in gratitude. Because gratitude, scientific studies show, is the state of mind that is the most creative, that enables the greatest flow of blood to my frontal cortex. When I am experiencing gratitude, I get ideas, I am more creative, I am more productive as a human being. And while in the state of gratitude, I empower myself to connect with the highest level of wisdom and make the best decisions. Here is an example of the emotional coaster that we go through in our lives. There are times when we are happy, times when we are sad, and it changes from hour to hour, interaction to interaction. We go up, we come down. So I call this the emotional coaster. And if you notice, gratitude is right at the top. That is the emotion where I am most in peace. And from there, I can go in any direction. So the state of gratitude gives me the ability to choose and make choice my weapon. And congruence. Congruence is basically a synchronization between what I do, what I feel, what I think, and what I am. By creating this synchronization, I allow the flow of information up and the wisdom down to the fullest. By not living in congruence every time, My feelings are different from what I'm expressing, which is different from what I really think, which is not in concert with my beliefs. I am knotting, I'm creating a knot in my life, and I lose peace. So, congruence is the path to untie the knots in my life that we talked about in the beginning and attain the peace that is my birthright. And we talk about growth. Growth is about taking nothing for granted, asking questions, because until I ask questions, I cannot learn. It says in the Old Testament, ask and it shall be given you, seek and ye shall find it. The human brain is extremely smart. I believe that if you ask it a question, it will answer it for you. In almost every situation in life, we know what the right thing is. We always know what the right thing is. Unfortunately, when we are in the thick of the moment, in the heat of the moment, we sometimes forget. We are so engaged in the emotions of a moment that even knowing the right thing, we do something different because at that time it seems expedient, it seems okay, and then we might regret it later. So, I believe the answer is very simple. It is to ask. By asking the right question in less than 500 milliseconds, I can get my brain to give me the right answer. So, for instance, when I'm feeling angry, I can ask, should I really be feeling angry? Is this thing that important? Is there another explanation for this person's behavior? So, there are techniques, there are exercises which I can follow and condition myself to ask the right question at the right time, because the answer is there. It's there for the taking. But I have to ask the right question. And I have to train myself and condition myself to ask. So, I need to apply and test before I believe anything. Too often, somebody said something and I take it to be true. That doesn't mean we don't accept what others say. We absolutely do. We live with faith. However, we should always be ready to question our faith. Unless we are willing to question our beliefs, we can never learn. Because the only way to learn is to believe that there may be another answer. Not that there is, but there may be another answer. That enables me to seek more information and possibly change my belief or come to the conclusion that, you know what, this is actually fine. But I have to have the confidence to empower myself. And I grow through sharing. One of the reasons I like to teach is because it gives me a second opportunity to learn. It says in the Old Testament somewhere, you give what you wish to receive and you teach what you wish to learn. So, in order to grow on the path of Jnana Yog, you also need to share your learnings and apply them in your life. And in conclusion, I like to quote from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16. Lord Krishna says, Abhayam sattva sanchuddhihi jnana yoga vyavasthitihi. And he's saying that the basic purpose, the basic system, the arrangement, the framework of Jnana Yog is for the following reason, for the following purpose. Sattva samshuddhi, that when I have access to the truth through samshuddhi, through equanimity, through equipoise, through balance, and through purity, which means when the information is going up unencumbered and the wisdom, the pure wisdom, is informing my life unencumbered, in that state, through Jnana Yog, I reach the state of Abhayam, fearlessness. Sattva Samshuddhi, through Jnana Yoga, through self-awareness, through self-mastery, I reach the state of fearlessness. Because I reveal to myself my true self. And when I see and experience my true self, I find that I am empowered and I become fearless. That, I believe, is what Jnana Yoga is all about. Thank you for listening. If you wish to contact me, my contact information is here. I love to hear from people. I love to learn from you. Thank you. Namaste.